Glaciers and ice caps. Some parts of the earth are icy and cold all year long. Snow on the tops of high mountains never melts. New snow pushes down the old snow and turns it into ice. This ice is called an ice cap or ice sheet. Glaciers. When an ice cap reaches a certain thickness, its enormous weight causes it to move slowly down the mountain. This moving ice is called a glacier.
Glaciers often join together, just like small rivers meet to form bigger rivers. The ice may be nearly 2 miles, 3.2 kilometers, deep.
The hollow where the ice collects to start the glacier is called a cirque. Like a powerful river, a glacier picks up broken rocks and other objects as it flows down a mountain. Some layers of ice may be thousands of years old. The bodies of huge, hairy, prehistoric animals called mammoths have been found frozen in glaciers. Glaciers usually move less than 3 feet, 1 meter a day. A glacier melts when it reaches a warm area and streams of water begin to form. When lots of glaciers melt, they can create new lakes or even cause the water level of oceans to rise. A glacier Glaciers A glacier melts. Rocks in the melting ice build up a wall called a terminal moraine. Lakes often form behind these walls. Icebergs. In the Arctic and Antarctic, it is so cold that even ice on the ground does not melt. Here icebergs are formed when glaciers flow into the sea. Icebergs are so big and heavy that they float low in the water. This makes them dangerous to ships. The famous ocean liner Titanic sank after colliding with an iceberg in 1912. Since then, an international ice patrol has reported the location and movement of icebergs in the North Atlantic Ocean.
Icebergs break apart once they are in the ocean, just like ice cubes do when you put them in a glass of water. The oceans around the Arctic and Antarctic are noisy with the sound of cracking ice.
Ice ages. The Earth goes through an ice age about every 150 million years. Ice ages last several million years. They result from a cooling of the Earth, which causes large glaciers and ice sheets to form. The last ice age, called the Quaternary Ice Age, started about 2.5 million years ago. A deep ice sheet covered about a third of the world's land. Most of the ice sheets and glaciers disappeared about 10,000 years ago, but some scientists believe we are still in the Quaternary Ice Age. Ice sheets still exist in Greenland and Antarctica.
Shaping the landscape. Glaciers can slowly grind away even the hardest rock. They carve out deep valleys and can wear away the sides of mountains until the peaks are steep and pointed. The Earth has been greatly changed by glaciers and ice ages. Glacier National Park in Montana was formed by glaciers that covered all of North America during the last ice age. More than 50 glaciers are still there. The park's valleys and lakes were made by moving sheets of ice. Glaciers also helped create the Great Salt Lake in Utah and Niagara Falls in New York.
Some glaciers make old river valleys deeper and wider. The sea may flow into these valleys, creating long, narrow inlets called fjords. The coast of Norway has many fjords.
Avalanches. Snow and ice can suddenly crash down a steep mountainside. This is called an avalanche. It often occurs during heavy snowstorms or in spring as the snow melts.
Look out! Large avalanches can do a lot of damage. They often block roads, flatten fences, and even bury houses. Avalanches are most dangerous on bare hillsides, where there are no trees to slow the tumbling snow.
People plant trees to help block big avalanches. Roads are often closed until the avalanche has passed.
Have you ever been on a mountain road or railway with a roof built over it? The roof is a snow bridge built to keep avalanches off the road.
In some cases, people use dynamite to trigger a small avalanche. By reducing the amount of built-up snow, people can prevent a larger, more destructive avalanche.
Avalanche safety. It's hard to tell when an avalanche will hit, but there are some things you can do to stay out of danger in snowy areas. Click on the signs to read some avalanche safety tips.
If you are going to be outside in an area with heavy snowdrifts, always tell someone where you will be. Never go into a snowy area alone. If you are in an area where avalanches are common, listen to the radio or TV for weather news. Never go hiking, skiing, or snowmobiling in a place where there are warnings for bad weather.
If you are hiking or skiing on a mountain trail and it begins to snow heavily, head for shelter.
Know your signs. Make sure you know which signs mean avalanche. Never ski or hike on a closed trail.
Volcanoes. An active volcano can erupt with little warning. Smoke and hot ash billow from the crater at the top of the volcano. Red-hot lava flows down the slopes, setting fire to everything in its path. Inside a volcano. A volcano forms over a deep chamber of red-hot molten rock called magma. Pressure from hot gases forces the magma up to the surface. There, it melts a hole through the rock above and flows out.
Molten rock that escapes to the Earth's surface is called lava. When a volcano erupts, glowing streams of lava flow down the sides of the volcano like rivers of fire. The lava has a temperature of about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, 1,100 degrees Celsius, which is hot enough to melt steel.
As layers of lava and volcanic ash cool and harden, they form a cone-shaped mountain. Lava continues to flow through a central pipe or vent in the mountain.
Volcanoes are caused by the movement of vast slabs of rock called plates in the Earth's surface. The plates float on top of a layer of magma where they can move and slide past each other. When they collide or spread apart, magma escapes to the Earth's surface.
Ring of Fire. There are about 850 active volcanoes in the world. Most of them lie in a belt called the Ring of Fire, which surrounds the Pacific Ocean.
When volcanoes occur in the ocean, they form underwater mountains. When these mountains extend above the surface of the water, we see them as islands. The Hawaiian Islands, shown here, were formed by volcanoes. Volcanic activity. Most volcanoes do not erupt continuously. A volcano that is between eruptions is said to be dormant. Volcanoes are called extinct if they have stopped erupting altogether.
When a volcano erupts after being dormant for a long time, the eruption is often violent. Mount St. Helens erupted in southern Washington state in 1980, more than 120 years after its last activity. The force of the eruption blew the top clear off the mountain.
Geysers. Geysers are springs of hot water that erupt from time to time. One of the most famous geysers is Old Faithful in Yellowstone National Park, Wyoming. It erupts about every 73 minutes, sending a blast of steam and hot water, 125 to 170 feet, 38 to 52 meters into the air.
Geysers form when water seeps into the ground and comes into contact with molten rock. The rock heats the water until the water changes to steam. Trapped underground, the steam creates pressure that builds up until steam and water shoot out of the ground. Geysers erupt only once in a while because it takes time for the steam pressure to build up again.
Buried cities. An erupting volcano can destroy everything within miles of its cone. In 79 AD, the Roman cities of Pompeii and Herculaneum were completely buried in deep layers of hot ash when nearby Mount Vesuvius erupted. Archaeologists are still working to uncover the remains.
Much of Pompeii is well preserved. Archaeologists carefully removed the ash to find pottery, coins, houses, murals, and other things that helped them learn about life in Pompeii almost 2,000 years ago. Vesuvius has not erupted since 1944, but it could erupt again at any time.
The bodies of some Vesuvius victims left hollows in the hardened ash. The plaster cast, shown here, was made by pouring wet plaster into one of the hollows and letting it harden.
Clouds. Have you ever seen a cloud that looked like an animal? Clouds come in all kinds of surprising shapes. Is it a rabbit dancing with glee? Is it a flower, a corncob, a flea? Is it a two-headed goat with one knee? It's a cloud. It's whatever you want it to be.
Do you know what makes clouds? Do you know why they're there? Do you think they're cotton or angels' fair hair? Might those be marshmallows blocking the glare? They are clouds, water droplets much lighter than air.
How does this water collect in the sky? Are birds feeling sad? Do they cry as they fly? And why is the air wet when we are still dry? In the clouds, all this water, could this be a lie? It rises from oceans and dewdrops on trees. It comes from the stuff that shoots out when you sneeze. Water hangs there in drops that nobody sees. Clouds of these drops that blow high in the breeze.
What is a cloud? Air closest to the earth contains water vapor. As air rises, it becomes cooler. Cool air can't hold as much water vapor as warm air can. Some of the vapor turns into tiny droplets or freezes to ice crystals. These tiny droplets form clouds. Clouds form in air that is rising. Slow-rising air produces sheets of cloud. Air that rises quickly makes clump-shaped cloud.
Kinds of clouds. Different kinds of clouds have different names. Curly or wispy clouds are called cirrus clouds. Sheet-like clouds are stratus clouds. A cumulus cloud looks like a pile or heap of clouds.
Wispy cirrus clouds form so high in the sky that they are not made up of droplets. They contain only ice crystals.
Cirrocumulus clouds may appear just before an overcast sky clears.
Cumulonimbus clouds, a type of cumulus cloud, can extend thousands of feet in the sky, from very low to very high. These clouds often bring thunderstorms. Altostratus clouds almost always mean rain. They cover the sky with a blanket of gray, blotting out the sun. Altocumulus is a medium-high patchy cloud.
Separate masses of cloud are called cumulus clouds.
Stratocumulus clouds contain low, dense clumps of cloud.
Stratus clouds can turn into fog or mist, covering up high ground. Gray stratus clouds bear rain. Making clouds. Have you ever made a cloud? You have if you've ever seen your breath. Clouds form when warm air hits cold air. When you exhale on a cold day, your warm breath meets the chilly outside air. The water in your breath turns into droplets, and what you see is a miniature cloud.
Goats. Goats are excellent climbers. They can scramble up steep rocky slopes without losing their footing. Did you know that some goats can also climb trees? A goat's hooves are hard around the outside, but soft and flexible on the inside. This gives the goat a good grip, sort of like a suction cup. Like the hooves of sheep and deer, goat's hooves are divided into two parts, or toes. A goat spreads its toes to keep from sinking in the snow. Goats close up their hooves to get a better grip on narrow, rocky paths.
Goats usually eat plants and grasses. However, if food is scarce, goats sometimes climb trees to eat the leaves and bark. Sheep or goat. Goats and sheep are so closely related that sometimes it is difficult to tell them apart. There are a few main differences between the two kinds of animals. For example, sheep have a gland between their toes, but goats do not. To find out some other differences, see if you can separate the sheep from the goats below. Click on the sheep button if you think the picture shows a sheep, and the goat button if you think it shows a goat.
Separate masses of cloud are called cumulus clouds.
This is a sheep. A sheep's tail hangs down. A goat's tail sticks straight up.
This is a goat. Most male goats have small beards or goatees sprouting from their chins. Sheep have no beards. The goat shown here is called an ibex, and it lives in parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa.
Separate masses of cloud are called cumulus clouds. Wild goats. Wild goats live in many mountainous regions of Europe, Asia, and North America. Females, or nanny goats, and young goats, or kids, live in herds of 30 to 40. Male goats, called billy goats, live by themselves except during the mating season when they join a herd. A female goat usually gives birth to 2 kids at a time. Goats often give birth on rocky ledges. The young are soon strong enough to join the herd, but until they do, they are in danger of predators such as eagles. A herd of goats has almost no enemies because there are few animals that can follow goats up steep slopes. The goats shown here are called Dagestan Turs. They live in the Caucasus Mountains in Asia.
Goats have thick, wiry hair that keeps them warm in the mountains. Most have 2 horns that they use to defend themselves. Male goats also may use their horns to fight other males for mates. Spectacular horns, like those of the markhor pictured here, are highly sought after by hunters. Domestic goats. Goats are raised for milk, wool, meat, and skin. In countries with poor grazing land, goats are popular because they eat anything, including plants that cows can't. For this reason, they are also used to clear land of shrubs and weeds. Scientists think domestic goats descended from the Bezoar goat of Western Asia.
This floppy-eared Nubian is a milk goat. Goat's milk is rich in protein and fat. Some human babies drink goat's milk because it's easier to digest than cow's milk. Goat's milk can also be made into cheeses. The Angora goat, shown here, grows a long hair called mohair. People spin mohair and make it into sweaters and blankets. Soft cashmere sweaters are made from the wool of the cashmere goat. The Angora
Goat antelopes. Goats and their many relatives belong to a larger group of animals called goat antelopes. This group includes some creatures that look very different from goats.
The Rocky Mountain goat lives in the alpine and tundra zones of the North American Rocky Mountains. Its white coat has 2 layers, an outer coat of thin, stiff hairs, and a thick, woolly undercoat to keep out the cold. Like most goats, the Rocky Mountain goat is strong and sturdy, weighing as much as 308 pounds, 140 kilograms.
The large, clumsy-looking muskox seems more like a cow than a goat. It's easily recognized by its long, shaggy coat and the hump on its shoulders. It's one of the largest of the goat antelopes, weighing a whopping 900 pounds, 409 kilograms. When threatened, a herd of musk oxen forms a circle with the males on the outside and the females and young on the inside. This plan works well against wolves, but it makes musk oxen easy targets for human hunters.
The chamois is a European relative of the Rocky Mountain goat. The chamois is much smaller than its American cousin. It has a dark coat. People use its skin to make chamois leather.
Weasels. Weasels are crafty. They are very good at taking whatever they need from wherever they find it.
Weasels are often pests around farms because they sniff out and steal both chickens and eggs from hen houses. Fierce hunters. Weasels are excellent hunters. These fierce, lean predators are speedy and muscular, ideally suited for chasing prey into tight spaces. They can leap and twist their bodies with ease as they chase after mice, rabbits, and birds. Even the laced weasel, which is only 8 to 10 inches, 13 to 25 centimeters long, can kill rabbits much larger than itself. Weasels use their pointed teeth to deliver a fatal bite to the back of a victim's neck.
With its long, thin body and short legs, a weasel can dart into a rabbit burrow or rat tunnel to grab its prey. A weasel is so slender and flexible that it can turn around inside a burrow.
Weasel family. Members of the weasel family, which includes ermines, martens, ferrets, and minks, are called mustelids. Skunks, Badgers, otters, and wolverines are also mustelids. These animals live in many habitats, from high in the treetops to underwater. With their partially webbed feet and supple bodies measuring 14 to 22 inches, 35 to 55 centimeters, minks are expert swimmers and divers. They live on the banks of rivers and lakes, where they feed on water birds, small mammals, and fish. The American mink is shown here.
The black-footed ferret of North America is on the official list of endangered species. Black-footed ferrets are threatened because their main source of food, the prairie dog, has been greatly reduced in numbers. Black-footed ferrets and pet ferrets are closely related to polecats. The pine marten hunts mainly on the ground, but it is a skillful climber. It is so nimble in the treetops that it can easily catch a squirrel. Pine martens live in Europe.
Young weasels. Most members of the weasel family raise their young in dens made in rock piles, hollowed-out trees, or burrows abandoned by other animals. They line their nests with leaves, moss, and sometimes the fur and feathers of their prey.
After a few weeks, young weasels leave the den to pounce and tumble in mock play, practicing for their life as hunters. They may stay with their mother even after they mature. Fur. Nearly every member of the weasel family has brown fur on most of its body, with a belly of white. The stoat is one exception. Its coat is brown during spring and summer months, but changes to pure white in the winter. The white coat is known as ermine.
Ermine. In the coldest parts of northern Europe, North America, and Asia, the ermine's white fur provides good camouflage, as the animal hunts rabbits, lemmings, and mice in the snow.
Mink. People have hunted and raised minks for their beautiful fur for hundreds of years. Recently, however, clothing made from real fur has become less popular.
Bees and wasps. Most people know when a bee or wasp is around. Bees and wasps are easy to see and easy to hear. The buzz of a bee or wasp is really its wings moving very fast. The body of a bee or wasp is often yellow and black. These bold colors warn other animals of the insect's sting. Most bees and wasps sting only if they are provoked. Bees are attracted to bright colors and sweet things.
Swatting at a bee or a wasp is not a good idea. The best thing to do is stay out of a bee's way. Types of bees and wasps. Bees and wasps first existed millions of years ago. Today they live in almost every part of the world. There are thousands of types of bees and wasps.
Hornets are wasps that build paper nests. The paper is actually plant material that the hornets chew, swallow, and throw up again.
Yellow jackets look somewhat like honeybees, but they are wasps. How can you tell a wasp from a bee? Look at the insect's waist. Wasps have very skinny waists.
Stingless bees have small stingers, but they don't sting. They bite and crawl into eyes, ears, nose, and hair. Stingless bees live only in tropical places. Cuckoo wasps lay their eggs in other bees' nests. The cuckoo wasp usually hatches first and eats up all the food.
Inside this piece of amber is a sweat bee that was alive perhaps 1 million years ago. The bee got trapped when it landed in the sweet, sticky sap of a tree. The sap later hardened into amber. Sweat bees are still around, and they look almost the same as they did 1 million years ago. You may notice them flying around when you're out in the hot sun.
Bumblebees are covered with little hairs to help them collect pollen and nectar and to help keep them warm.
Cuckoo wasps lay their eggs in other bees' nests. The cuckoo wasp usually hatches first and eats up all the food.
Lifestyle. Bees and wasps can be divided into two groups, social and solitary. Social bees and wasps live in large groups, called colonies. Solitary bees and wasps live alone in a nest in the ground or in a hollow plant stem.
Highly social bees and wasps build hives. A single hive can contain thousands of bees or wasps.
Many solitary wasps do not build nests. They paralyze spiders and insects and then lay eggs on their victims. The eggs hatch into larvae that eat the creatures alive. Carpenter bees are solitary. A single female burrows into pieces of wood to lay her eggs. She separates the eggs with walls made of wood chips and saliva. Then she places food inside with each egg. Carpenter bees.
Hive life. The most common bee is the honeybee. A honeybee lives in a hive that contains about 50,000 other bees. Every bee in a hive has a special job to do.
The queen honeybee spends her life laying eggs. She can lay as many as 25,000 eggs in a summer. There is only one queen per hive. When a queen gets old, workers feed a few larvae special food called royal jelly. Larvae that eat this food grow into young queens, which are larger than other bees and look different. The queens fight each other until only one is left alive. She becomes the hive's new queen.
The queen lays an egg into each cell in the hive. The eggs hatch into worm-like larvae after a few days. The larvae become pupae once they have eaten enough. Pupae develop into adult bees.
Drones are male bees. There are only a few hundred drones in a hive. A drone's only function is to mate with the queen bee. They cannot feed themselves or sting. Drones die at the end of summer when the worker bees stop feeding them.
Workers are female bees who gather food, care for the young, and clean and protect the hive. They do not lay eggs. There are about 40,000 workers in a hive. The honeybee jig. Honeybees eat nectar or pollen from flowers. When a honeybee finds a good source of food, it tells other bees in the hive by dancing. The bee's dance shows other bees where the food is in relation to the sun. The faster the bee dances, the closer the food source is to the hive.
Importance of bees. Bees and wasps are extremely important to life on Earth. Bees help plants by carrying male pollen grains to the female parts of flowers. Farmers often build hives so that the bees can help their crops. People also keep beehives so they can harvest honey and wax from them. Honey is used to sweeten many of our foods. Beeswax is used to make candles, lipstick, chewing gum, and many other products.
Bees do not usually sting a beekeeper as long as the beekeeper moves slowly. However, most beekeepers wear special clothes just in case. Beehives are made of removable plates of cells called combs. Honey and wax can be collected by removing the combs. Sometimes smoke is used to calm the bees during the process.
hummingbirds. A hummingbird is about as long as your computer mouse and as light as a pencil. The Cuban bee hummingbird is the smallest bird and one of the smallest warm-blooded animals in the world. The bee hummingbird is only 2.25 inches, 5.9 centimeters long.
Flight. Hummingbirds are named for the humming sound that their wings make. A hummingbird flaps its wings up to 90 times every second. Hummingbirds' special wings make them excellent flyers. A hummingbird can hover, stay in one spot in the air. It's the only bird that can fly backwards. The wings of a hummingbird are attached like your wrist. This allows them to turn their wings all the way around in a figure 8. Other birds have their wings attached like your elbow. Try turning your wrist around in a figure 8, and then turning your elbow the same way. You can see why a hummingbird can control its flying so much better than other birds. Flower power. Hummingbirds feed on the sugary sweet nectar of flowers. They have tube-like bills and long sticky tongues like woodpeckers. Many hummingbirds have bills developed especially for the flowers they eat from, and many plants rely on hummingbirds to carry their pollen.
Hummingbirds must eat almost constantly to get enough energy to fly. To save energy on a cold night, a hummingbird goes into torpor, a state in which its body temperature drops and its heartbeat and breathing slow down.
Hummingbirds have to fly while they eat. They hover next to a flower while they stick their beaks inside and suck up the nectar. A hummingbird often finds an insect treat inside too. Insects are an important high-protein part of a hummingbird's diet.
Iridescence. The feathers on a hummingbird's head reflect light. This is called iridescence. When a hummingbird is in just the right position, you can see the bright shiny colors on its head. If it turns a little, however, its head looks dark and dull.
Since it's hard to catch them at just the right angle to see their bright colors, hummingbirds can be almost impossible to tell apart. Expert birders learn the calls of different hummingbirds in case they don't get a good view. Reproduction. Most hummingbirds live alone except during mating season. Hummingbirds breed when flowers are in bloom and there is a lot of food to eat. The female builds a nest, usually small and cup-shaped, and provides all the care for her chicks.
Female hummingbirds usually lay 2 tiny eggs. The chicks are very small when they hatch. They are blind and helpless and must rely on their mother to feed them and keep them warm. After only about 3.5 weeks, however, these chicks will leave their mother's nest for good. Hummingbird habitat. Almost all hummingbirds are tropical birds. About 300 of the 315 species live below the United States-Mexico border. Since hummingbirds need lots of flowers in order to get food, even those hummingbirds that can be found in Canada during the summer return to the south during the colder months. Black-chinned hummingbirds spend the spring and summer in mountain and alpine meadows from British Columbia to Texas. The hummingbirds mate and lay their eggs in these areas. They fly south to Mexico when their food supply disappears.
The ruby-throated hummingbird migrates 620 miles, 1,000 kilometers, across the Gulf of Mexico every year in a non-stop flight. Other marathon flyers include the rufous hummingbird, which can be found in southern Alaska more than 2,000 miles, 3,200 kilometers north of where it spends the winter. The
Pandas.
Can you pick out the panda in these pictures? If you chose the large black and white creature, you were right. The giant panda weighs as much as 350 pounds, 160 kilograms, and is very familiar to most people. However, if you chose the small reddish creature, you were also right. Some scientists think that giant pandas are more closely related to the bear than to any other type of animal. Other scientists think that they might be close relatives of the raccoon. For now, the giant panda's relatives remain a mystery.
Most people have never heard of the red panda, a much smaller animal that weighs only about 11 pounds, 5 kilograms. As you may have guessed by its striped tail and the markings on its face, the red panda is related to the raccoon.
Food. Although giant pandas that live in zoos eat meat and other foods, those that live in the wild eat mostly bamboo shoots. Wild red pandas eat acorns, roots, berries, and lichens in addition to bamboo shoots. They sometimes eat fish, insects, and mice.
Bamboo is a constant source of food for pandas, even in the winter. However, every 40 to 100 years, all the bamboo in a huge area flowers, seeds, and dies. Lots of pandas may also die if they can't find another source of bamboo.
Pandas have an extra thumb on each front paw that they use to grasp bamboo and other food. This thumb is really an enlarged wrist bone.
Disappearing pandas. Giant pandas live in the bamboo forests of central and western China. Because people hunt them and ruin their habitat, there are only a few hundred giant pandas left in the wild. Laws now protect giant pandas from hunters, and efforts have been made to breed giant pandas in zoos.
A baby giant panda is very small. It weighs about 4 ounces, 120 grams, about as much as a small rat. Born blind and naked, a baby giant panda is completely helpless and extremely fragile. Giant pandas born in zoos often die after only a few days. Mountain plants. The higher you go on a mountain, the colder and more windy it usually gets. Some plants can survive the cold and wind, but others cannot, so the type of plants you see changes as you climb. At a certain elevation, it becomes too cold and windy for even small flowers or bushes to grow. Tops of tall mountains are usually covered with snow or rocks. Small bushes and flowers can grow where it is too cold and windy for large trees. These plants grow low to the ground, safe from the wind. Many of them are very flexible and don't break when blown. These alpine plants, or plants that grow above the timberline, die during the cold season and grow back when warmer weather comes.
Coniferous, needle-leaf forests take the place of deciduous forests as it starts to get colder. Pine trees and other needle-leaf trees can survive with fewer warm days. Their thin pointed leaves can withstand more wind than the larger leaves on deciduous trees.
Deciduous, broad-leafed forests often cover the bottom part of a mountain. The trees in these forests need lots of warm sun and plenty of water to grow.
Hyraxes. A hyrax. What kind of animal is that? Try to guess. See if you can pick its closest living relative. Click on the picture of the hyrax for some clues. Clues. Hyraxes don't dig holes. Some hyraxes live in trees, and some live in rocky places. Hyraxes live mostly in Africa.
Mouse. Although the name hyrax does mean shrew mouse, the hyrax is neither a shrew nor a mouse. Hyraxes are also called conies. Do you think that's a better name?
Guinea pig. Hyraxes aren't related to guinea pigs either. One scientist was so sure that they were related, however, that he named the hyrax family Procavidae, meaning before the guinea pigs.
Rabbit. Hyraxes aren't related to rabbits, but you're not the first to think they are. The Phoenicians were people that lived more than 3,000 years ago. When they discovered Spain, they thought they saw hyraxes everywhere. They named the land Isafan, or Island of the Hyrax. Later, this name became Hispania. The animals they saw, however, weren't hyraxes. They were rabbits. Elephant. Yes, believe it or not, you found the answer. The hyrax's closest living relative is the largest animal on land. Scientists finally figured this out from fossils. They found that some hyraxes were once as big as tapirs. Other hyraxes spent a lot of their time in the water. Scientists now think that hyraxes are also related to sea cows and aardvarks.
Small all over. Hyraxes have small, solid bodies with a stump of a tail. They have small ears and short legs. The bottoms of a hyrax's feet are rubbery pads. These pads have sweat glands, and the sweat makes a hyrax's feet stick to things when it's climbing. Hyraxes live in Africa and the Middle East. Hyraxes that live in warm, dry places have short hair. Hyraxes that live in trees and cold regions have soft, thick fur.
Rock hyrax. Rock hyraxes form the largest group of hyraxes. They live on rocky slopes and are active during the day.
Tree hyrax. Biologists know very little about tree hyraxes. They're active at night and live mostly in trees, though some tree hyraxes live on rocky ground. Tree hyraxes are hunted for their fur. Because of this, and because Africa's forests are disappearing, tree hyraxes may soon be endangered.
Hyrax life. Hyraxes live in family groups that are made up of an adult male, several females, and their young. The male guards his family's territory. This picture shows a bush hyrax with its young. Rock hyraxes and bush hyraxes sometimes live together. They sleep and huddle together in caves, their young play together, and they even make many of the same noises. This is very unusual for mammals. One reason the two kinds of hyraxes can live together is that they don't eat the same kind of food. Rock hyraxes eat mostly grass, while bush hyraxes eat the leaves of trees and bushes.
Hyraxes can survive on all kinds of plant food, and they don't have to drink very much. However, they can't get along very well without rocks. Hyraxes can't control their own body temperature very well, so they need to duck into the shade to keep cool and bunch together in a rocky shelter to keep warm.